Centuries before the arrival of Europeans in the Americas, North America was inhabited by indigenous tribes, most of who led a semi-nomadic lifestyle, roaming from one region to another in quest of new hunting grounds and gathering fruits and roots. Over time, however, population growth led to conflicts between the best tribes, hunting grounds, which often ended in violent battles. Nevertheless, even at such a distant time, democracy had already taken root in North America, known as the Iroquois Confederacy. This League of Nations emerged among the 5 tribes of the northeastern forest that had been tormented by retaliatory and violence for many generations. The Iroquois originally lived near Lake Ontario and along the Mohawk River in New York State. Around 1605 tribes, the Mohawk, the Oneida, the Onondaga, the Cayuga, and the Seneca, came together to form a confederacy. A 6th tribe, the Tuscarora, joined in 1722. There were other tribes that spoke in a similar language but were not part of the Confederacy. In 1650, the Iroquois started making their way to the state of Ohio. Between the Great Lakes and the Ohio River, and chased out several groups of Native Americans living in the area. Resulting conflicts were known as the Beaver Wars. The Iroquois wanted more land to hunt and capture beavers and deer. While the tribes began to work together, they surely did not renounce war. They fought and captured other native tribes, as well as waves of European immigrants arriving on the new continent. They fought against the early French and British settlers. The Iroquois took part in the fur trade with the Dutch and then the British. Unlike many other tribes east of the Mississippi River, the Iroquois generally disliked the French and usually traded their hunting spoils with the English. A small group converted to Catholicism and helped the French, but the majority of the Iroquois helped the English during the so-called French and Indian War, as was fairly typical of northeastern Indians. Before colonization, the Iroquois dwelt in large communal houses known as molocos, made of saplings and covered with elm bark, each sheltering many families. The Moloco family was the basic unit of traditional Iroquois society and provided a form of social organization. Agriculture was the main food source, and the women had a specific role, as they were thought to be connected to the land's power to generate life. For this reason, women were responsible for determining how food would be distributed. Within the community, Iroquois society was matrilineal. When a marriage took place, the groom and his family relocated to the bride's home, and the family line was traced back to her. War was important in Iroquois society. For men, self-respect depended on achieving personal glory. Prisoners of war were often enslaved or otherwise adopted to replace dead family members. Battle losses and disease heightened the need for prisoners, who became a significant population in Iroquois settlements. By the late 17th century, during the American Revolution, the Iroquois sought to stay neutral, first pushed to join one side or the other. Some tribes, such as the Tuscarora and the Oneida, sided with the colonists, while the Mohawk and Seneca remained loyal to Britain, with whom they had stronger relations. In 1779, George Washington commanded the Sullivan Expedition, led by Colonel Daniel Broadhead and General John Sullivan, against the Iroquois nations to not only invade, but to destroy the British-Indian alliance. They tortured many Iroquois villages throughout western New York, and the surviving Indians moved to Canada. The American Revolution wreaked great division among the colonists that also caused a rupture in the Iroquois Confederacy. The diseases brought by the Europeans dwindled the Iroquois population to a fraction of what it had been. In the past hundreds of years of coexistence between the tribes and the collective government were superseded by the sheer immensity of the American Revolutionary War. By the end of the war, the fear that the colonists would fail to honor the pleas of the Iroquois became a reality, especially after the majority decided to stand with the British, and were no longer considered reliable by the newly independent Americans. The Canadian Iroquois communities in Oka and Kanawake became flourishing settlements in the 19th century, supporting themselves by farming and selling snowshoes, boats, and baskets. Iroquois society would prove to be the most military threat that Europeans could face, though. The conquering of their territories forced them to relinquish much of their land. Their legacy remains, some historians assign some aspects of the United States Constitution to the Iroquois ideas. The Iroquois Confederacy laid out a model of federalism, separation of powers, and participatory democracy that would inspire leaders such as Benjamin Franklin and James Madison during the formation of the United States.